Welcome to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristie Tobias. Joining me today are guests just striving to dominate in their personal and professional lives while answering the question, what does it mean to be fearlessly made? Welcome back to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristie Tobias. And as a reminder for those of you that are either just joining me for the first time or you are a tried and true member of the Fearlessly Made You crew, Fearlessly Made You is a spinoff of my book, Fearlessly Made You, which is a story about my journey with PTSD and the conversation around what it means to own your fearless existence. So it doesn't mean that we are without fear. It means we acknowledge fear, but we don't allow it to own our journey. One of the great things that I love about this Fearlessly Made You show is that I get to bring people onto the show who I have either been recently connected with, who have inspired me, or have known for forever who've inspired me. You guys have had the chance to see so many different people, including members of my own family, but today is no different. I'm super excited to have my dear friend Chase Pipkin on today. Chase is a licensed clinical social worker focusing on cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's just one part of who Chase is. Chase is also, a man of many hobbies and talents and skills that we're going to dive into. But first, let me introduce you all to Chase. Chase, welcome to Fearlessly Made You.
Thank you for having me, Kristie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, I'm glad you're here. So one of the things I love to do is I like for every single one of my guests just to kind of talk a little bit about their journey, how they got here, whether it's to Pensacola, to this phase in your life, whatever moves you. But would love to know from you, who is Chase? What are things that people, the Fearlessly Made You crew, I know, daunting task. What does our
Big
Fearlessly
question.
Made You crew need to know about who you are?
Huge question.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Yeah. So, born and raised in Panama City, with a brief stint in South Florida. Came over to Pensacola for college, and never left. Fell in love with the city. Got my undergraduates in criminal justice and psychology. Really liked the idea of, talking to people, helping people. So ended up going and getting my master's in social work, becoming a licensed social worker, and here we are.
I love it. So you fell in love with Pensacola. What was it about you that was the draw to, and I love Pensacola. You guys all know that, though I've recently moved. I adore Pensacola. So I'm curious, what kept you here?
Well, I was close enough to my family. I still have some family that lives in Panama City. So, but it was far enough away that, I could maintain my independence, kind of build my own life, and pop in on my parents whenever I need to.
A little sneak attack.
Of course. But, every time I think about it, I just feel like this town has so much potential that it's building towards. And I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where this town has to go. And it's got so many things that, it's so close to what I grew up with that it's a familiar town, but it's bigger. It's allowed me to kind of grow into my fish tank, if you will.
I like that. Grow into your fish tank. Yes. So when you think about growing into your fish tank, what does that look like for you? I think one of the things I was told is you can be, small fish in a big pond, big fish in a small pond, or just hanging out in the fish tank. Like, what does that growing into your fish tank mean to you?
I can't, I'm no biologist. I can't remember. There's always a comment about a fish that kind of grows into the size of the tank that it's in. And I knew and have continued to know that I don't want to live necessarily a small town, especially not as small as Panama City. I love Panama City, but it's a tiny town. I knew everybody in that town by high school. But I also know that like the thought of a really big, Atlanta, New York, Orlando, Tallahassee, any of these really big cities. Tallahassee isn't necessarily a huge city, but it is what it is. The concept of those seemed a little too much for me.
That's fair.
And I was okay with that. A little city like this, that it's big enough that I can be exactly who I am. I can be exactly who I want to be, but I can't go anywhere and not find somebody that I know.
Yeah.
And I love that because I always love going around and hey, there's my friend, and hey, there's my friend. And
Which is really how Chase and I met. Is we were at a location. We were at a birthday party, actually.
Yeah.
And we were literally connected to probably like every person that was there, but Chase and I had never met, which was really random. And then a beautiful friendship was made. But it's so cool because I love that about Pensacola as well, is you really do run into, a different part of your network or crew somewhere. And knowing that for you too, though, because it makes me think about kind of the different type of work that you do and how that impacts, people you meet, not your clients, but just people you meet, the type of work you do, the ability to connect and engage with people. Have you found that with your own personal and professional development, that the community that is Pensacola has helped kind of help you thrive in yourself, both personally and professionally?
it has. It absolutely has. There's been many periods in my life where things have gone wrong. And no matter who I'm talking to, I will always tell them that, I love Pensacola because when things have gone wrong for me in my life, I feel like the city of Pensacola has been there just because I have such a good connection of friends here.
Yes.
That I anywhere I go, I feel that support.
That's good.
And not to mention that, I have the job I currently have mostly because the owner of the company I work for taught one of our classes back when I was in graduate school. And then I just so happened to randomly run into one of my cohort members when I was looking for a job. And she was like, well, hey, send them your resume. Like, they know who you are. 4 years later, here we are.
Yeah. No, I love that. When I like that you say, when things have gone wrong or have gone bad, the community here has been here for you. And, I recently talked about in my episode, one of my recent episodes, I moved. But one of the things that I do love about Pensacola is exactly that. I was going through a rough time over the past few months and having to reevaluate the things in my life that were important and the things that I put value and pride in. And I was so grateful, and so many of you know who you are, for the people who reached out to me during that really difficult time here in Pensacola and just said, I can't speak to everything that's happening, but I'm here, and continue to reach out, continue to support, continue to just love on me and just check in. I was like, hey, just checking in. And I love doing that to other people. Having people do that to you is so beautiful. And it's a vibrant part of this community.
Especially when you're the person that often does that to other people.
Yes.
We fall into that niche so often as the one who reaches out, that it's not always common to have the people that reach out to you if you're that person.
Yeah.
So it is really nice to have that community that recognizes when the helpers need the help.
Yes. Well, and so let's lean on that a little bit, because as, professionally, that is your job. Like, your job is to be the one to provide help and support and resources. And I'd love to dive into that a little more. But before we get into that, would love to kind of get your perspective on, for those of us that are helpers. Like, I'm a coaching consultant in my corporate world, but I also do that in my personal world, right? And so it's hard to sometimes accept that you can receive help from other people. And so I'm just curious from your perspective, like, how you accept the grace of someone saying, let me support you, because that's been always a hard thing for me.
You're absolutely right. It's very difficult. A while back, I was talking with a close friend about what profession was least likely to seek therapeutic help. And we were talking with a prominent head of an organization here in town, and she was convinced that it was her organization. And he was like, no, it's social work.
Yeah.
And it is, because, we get in that mindset that, well, I do this every day. I know the skills that a therapist would teach me.
Yes.
I know what I could ask myself, or I know what they would ask me because I ask it every day. And acknowledging that, and still, I'm not the best at seeking out that help myself, but acknowledging it and seeking it out when we need it, whether it comes in the form of therapy or just a little bit of spent time with a friend, or whatever your facet of self-care really looks like, is important to everybody, but especially a little extra important to those people that are the ones that go out of their way to provide that for other people.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and so speaking to that, I think it would be great to also dive into a little bit of how you got into clinical social work, because I think that also, I find a lot of times the careers that we go into, and we talk about this a lot in Fearlessly Made you guys will be familiar with this, we have the ability to choose what brings us joy and to choose a part of our professional lives that drives us. And it's why with every person that I've had on Fearlessly Made You, they've made that choice. Maybe not initially, but there has come the point now in their careers or in their lives where they're like, I'm choosing this because it does bring me joy. Social work is a lot. And I don't mean that facetiously, but there's a lot of your own personal connection and engagement that probably goes into it. And there's a lot of things that you have to kind of think through as we do in any career, but especially in social work, where you probably have to kind of separate yourself a little bit from what's going on in the situation, but still stay connected and engaged. So I'm just curious for you, how you got into social work, what really drove you to this phase of your career?
A lot of different factors just kind of fell in line for me. And, getting onto this career topic, I feel like I got to go ahead and make my disclosure statement that any and all opinions or comments made by me do not reflect that of the company I work with or any other organizations I'm a part of.
This is just the Chase Show right now.
This is just, purely me. The joke I always tell people is I joked about becoming a therapist when I was younger because I found out therapists could have a Chase lounge in their office.
Yeah. I just got a Chase lounge, y'all. If you don't own one, own one. It makes you feel like a queen.
Coincidentally enough, I don't have a Chase lounge in my office, but I always joked that was part of the reason. But no, I started off learning about criminal justice. And that was kind of a passion of mine for a while, and had some extra time in school. I'm very, very fortunate in that I had the ability to take some extra classes, and I picked up a minor in psychology, and I finished that minor really quickly, and I was fortunate enough to have a little extra time. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to make this minor in psychology a major in psychology. Yeah. Dual majored, finished that. Spent a year working with a local AmeriCorps group out of the Early Learning Coalition in town. And that kind of opened my eyes into what this world of kind of helping other people really was.
I love that.
And I fought the term social worker for so long.
Why is that?
Well, there's such a stigma with the word social work. You think social worker, you think Child Protective Agency, you think DCF, you think all these other things that social work can have, and those are super important jobs that I personally never want to do because I don't have the emotional bandwidth for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I fought it so hard because of that stigma. And then somebody finally convinced me to just take a look at the application for the grad school. And I took a look at the application after already applying to the psychology department for a master's in clinical social, or a master's in mental health counseling. I took a look at the application for the social work program, and I immediately had answers for every single question on there. And I was like, wow.
You knew.
This is ridiculous.
Wait a minute.
And then, of course, it didn't come easy because I get a phone call one morning. The way I found out that I was accepted into the program is I get a phone call one morning, and I'm woken up to this phone call from somebody from the social work department saying, hey, you're going to get a letter saying that you were denied that's not right. You weren't denied, you were accepted. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm accepted? I'm in? And they're like, yes, you're in. I'm like, cool. All right.
Denied letter then. A sick joke.
Wrong button hit. I don't know. But so freaked out there for a little bit.
Yeah, that's exciting though.
But, and you know, the rest kind of wrote itself. I spent a year working with a wonderful group of people at a local elementary school to gain some experience. And then, as I said, coincidentally ran into one of my cohort members at a restaurant one night. She was like, well, you're looking for a job, put in here. And 4 years later, now I'm licensed and working in the field.
Yeah. Well, and I love it because there's that direction that you started going and moving into. And I think we all go in a direction that we think makes sense. And then we hit an area that we're like, no, this is not for me. This is absolutely not it. And we fight it. And I have found 99% of the time, what the direction that you're fighting is actually the direction that you need to move in. And that's exactly what you saw and found. But in that fight, though, I think we learned so much about ourselves, and we learn a little bit about the why, like why we were fighting so much. I find things like for my own interior, like internal, like a lot of it is I'm fighting something that scares me because it could open up doors that would not be opened otherwise. And it's like a subconscious fight of that phase. When you think about kind of what that fight was for you, does it go back to anything, or do you think it was just like, because you were like, I know this, I don't need this?
The drive for the fight, I really think, was mostly just bias at the time.
That's fair.
As I said, I had this stigma in my mind of what it was like to be a social worker. Mm-hmm. And some people already in the field were, you know, some family friends of mine and some people that I've known my whole life were like, hey, it's not what you think. Try it out anyway.
Yeah.
And like I said, eventually I gave it that shot and filled out that application, and that application just wrote itself.
Yeah, I like that. And as you say it too, it brings the conversation that we always have on Fearlessly Made You of, you know, kind of owning that journey and the path that it takes you down as you move past the barriers, the stigmas, the biases that we have that can keep us from our own success. As you think about that and other people who may have been in your shoes or are in your shoes right now, what does it look like for you to help them kind of work past their own innate biases that could be keeping them from their own success?
Tough question.
I know. You're
Very
welcome.
tough question. Thanks.
That's why we're on Fearlessly Made You.
Again, this is so backwards. Normally, I'm the one asking the tough questions.
I know.
Work.
This is fun.
I really think it's about not allowing your point of view. You know, I talk to my clients all the time saying that everything we experience is put through a filter of our own perception. Mm-hmm. You know, our world is generated based on our perception. Your perception of the world is going to be very different than my perception of the world. It's going to be very different from any other person that's walking down the street's perception of the world or driving past this place. Down to the point that, you know, we might see even colors differently.
Yeah.
Literally, the vibrancy of colors might be different for all of us, which means that, which tells me that our perception of things is going to be skewed by nature. Mm. And being aware of that and aware of our own biases and being able to go, okay, well, is this just my worldview or is this the logical truth? And delving into and figuring out what the actual truth of the situation might be to see the whole picture was for me the first step in that, because I didn't realize that, you know, hey, you get a degree in social work and you're hireable as a mental health counselor. I thought you had to be, I mean, in the state of Florida, to call yourself a mental health counselor, you have to be a licensed mental health counselor. So I call myself a mental health clinician.
It's fair.
But
no, that's good, because I think what you said about delving into truth, I think is so important. And we're in this interesting space right now in life where there's so much access to information and things that can bias perception, impact perception, however you want to look at it. And we wade through a lot of that and don't often find the truth of what our own realities are and how that impacts the way we see things. And it can impact the way that we interact with people. And so I think that's something I love that you say, that kind of, it's like that removing of biases so you can find your truth. And I think that's so important for us to really lean into and own within our own journeys. Have there been for you things that you've experienced in life that maybe there were biases towards you that could have impacted the way that you saw your own truth?
Absolutely.
What have those looked like for you?
I mean, from the moment I was born.
Okay, talk to us a little bit about that.
So one of the things that makes me who I am today, I was born with this genetic disorder called arthrogryposis. Leads me to contracting muscles in my knees and ankles, holding me in a, or at least most comfortably, in a squat position. And growing up, when I was just an infant, my parents would take me to all these doctors to try and figure out what could be done, what the prognosis was. And so many doctors told my parents, prepare him for a life in a wheelchair.
Wow.
That was their statement.
Wow.
Until we found one or two doctors that were like, well, we don't know if this will work, but we're going to give it a shot.
Okay.
And my mom's persistence,
Yeah.
my dad's support, to continue to not take that as an answer. You know, the medical professional opinion, and they were like, no.
We will not. We have a whole other thought process around that. But that's, so diving into that even more. And I think one of the interesting things, Chase, that I admire and appreciate the most about you is when you walk into a room or walk in anywhere, your presence fills that room, period. Like you have a light and you just kind of have a way of approaching life that's it's effervescent, but it's like, I'm here. I am who I am. Regardless of physicality, but just your energy, which I love. And so for you growing up, do you think that with such a diagnosis at such an early age, did that impact the way that you show up?
It definitely does now.
Okay.
I think the support from the friends and family that I have, and as I said, you know, I like walking around going, hey, I know these people at this spot. And to a point, that's because I know that if I know 9 people over here and there are 100 people in this room, one person in this room is going to think and or say something that, if I were sensitive about it, would be offensive.
Interesting. Okay.
And not that I'm going to take offense to that, because it's been something I've been dealing with my entire life.
Right.
But it does help when I walk into a room that if I know 9 people over here, well, worst case scenario, these 9 people are behind me and I've got their support.
That's fair.
So, you know, the people that I know, the support of the people that have been around me has always influenced that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I apply that to so many aspects of life, because there are things about us as people. And I'll make the obvious statement for you from a physical perspective, you can't change the way that the lower half of your body looks. I can't change my skin color. And so there are people out there, and I'm using those as examples that you and I can relate to.
Yeah.
There are people out there that feel like it's their right or responsibility to make a comment on things that are like, this is who I am as a person, and I have had no problem being that person and having this physical aspect of who I am be part of me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't impact anything, you know, and I think that's the part that's so interesting, is when you identify what it looks like for you to show up, what it looks like for you to feel supported, and what it looks like for you to have that confidence in yourself. It kind of negates what other people try and throw at you, regardless of the situation. Because like you said, I know we've both been in situations where like being sensitive to what people have said have impacted us.
Yeah.
And have made a difference in the way we thought about ourselves. But it's that piece. And I'm saying this for those of you that are like, well, I'm in that now. And so, you know, I always think about what can I share to help people in that uncomfortable, painful, kind of messy phase. And I'd love for you to kind of share your nuggets of wisdom, as I call them, during those uncomfortable phases, kind of thinking back to when it did affect you, how people saw you with, even though you can't control who you are, what you look like, people had like said something about it. Like what advice would you give to people as they're maybe struggling through their own uncomfortable moments?
Well, I always joke with close friends, because as you said, you know, if I walk into a room, people are going to turn around and look.
Yeah.
It's going to be a thing. And I can either assume that those people are turning around and looking and judging based on the way that I appear, or I can make the assumption that people are turning around and looking because I'm attractive and they just like the way I float into that room.
I thought it was. That's what I always thought it was.
You know, we get to choose that thought.
Yeah, I love that. So I think that's a good one. And I want you to continue on. I think that's a good one. I like, it's so funny. It's your choice. You get to make the choice, but continue on. But I'm like, just remember it's your choice.
Yeah. No, you know, on that note, like one of the things, as you said, one of the areas of therapy that I practice and I've studied the most is a branch of therapy called cognitive behavioral therapy. And if you're having experience with this, it's all about acknowledging that we might not be able to control the situations that we're experiencing.
Yep.
But those situations are filtered through our past experiences, our core beliefs, things that we've internalized.
Yeah.
And whether we're aware of it or not, what CBT states is that situation filtered through those beliefs creates a thought, which creates our emotion, which creates our behavior. But at any point of that CBT triangle, the thought, emotion, and behavior, we have the ability to, with awareness, go in and change that. And it takes time, it takes effort.
Yeah.
It is not an easy thing to do. But with practice and awareness, we can go in and say, I don't like the behavior that this emotion's creating from this thought. And here's this thought.
Love.
I'm going to change this. And again, it takes time, it takes repetition, because we are creating new neural pathways in our brain to do that.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Well, and you said a key thing, therapy.
Yes, everybody needs therapy.
You all know I've been very open about my therapy journey, which is something that I take a lot of, I don't say pride in a negative way, but pride in, because I can't do this life without support from others. And therapy has been one of those areas for sure, including forms of cognitive behavioral therapy for myself. But I love that you break that down, because I think therapy can be intimidating to people. It can scare people. The way that you just broke it down helps us see, I'll say it bluntly, kind of the simplicity in what the actual process is, but the work behind it. Yeah. And it really does come down to investing in yourself to help improve where you're going. You don't have to be in that space. Like, the pain exists. The uncomfortable moments exist for everyone. If you did not know that, every single person goes through pain and they go through uncomfortable moments. Your uncomfortable moment, my uncomfortable moment, like everyone's uncomfortable moments are different.
Again, based on that perception, that worldview we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. I love that. Well, and so kind of shifting gears a little bit too, I think we can get into these spaces where, especially, you know, in your line of work, there's a lot of deepness. There's a lot of things that you have to really work through. But there's also opportunities, I think, for us to enjoy our work, but enjoy our life and the different things that we're able to do to express ourselves and to be that authentic person.
Yeah.
So outside of work, I know that you are a man of many talents and skills and hobbies, which I love. And so I would love for you to talk with us a little bit more when you are, you know, in your favorite space in life. Where are you? What does that look like? What are some of the things that you're involved in?
Well, talents is your word, not mine. If we're talking about my favorite space in life, I gotta reiterate, it's just whatever it looks like hanging out with the people I care about.
Love it. Yep.
But that's one of the biggest things for me, because my whole life I've been so fortunate enough to have this groups of friends, people that have surrounded me, that have supported me. But you're right, I have recently gotten into many different hobbies and crafts and things. Cosplay's been fun relatively in the last couple of years. For the first, it's a weird aspect of life that I'm realizing recently, that going through middle school and high school, a lot of people find this weirdness within them. And I say weirdness in a very, what's the word?
Enduring, maybe?
Enduring, yes.
I like weirdness. We all got a little weird. If you think you do not have weirdness, let us have a chat. Because we all have a little
You're hiding it.
Yeah.
Because this uniqueness about us.
Yes, I like that.
And to a point, I don't know, in my personal experience, I know for years that I hid it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
An attempt to fit in, an attempt to make things to fit the mold.
Yes, it's good.
And now, as I'm going through things and realizing that, the uniqueness is who makes me me.
Yeah.
So I am, I'm going to the local convention in my Spider-Man outfit, which is a little tighter than I really like, and it's a little uncomfortable sometimes, but
isn't that the
here we go.
Life?
And the Green Power Ranger costume that I'm really excited about that I made.
You have a Green Power Ranger costume? Okay,
I'll show you pictures.
I was obsessed with the Pink Power Ranger. I'm pretty sure I'm her.
I met the Pink Power Ranger this past year at the recent con. She was the last living original Mighty Morphin Power Ranger that I hadn't met.
I think her name is like Kim something.
Kimberly was the
Is that a different
character name.
Oh, what was her?
Her name's Amy Jo Johnson, is the actress.
So she was in a lot of Hallmark movies as well at one point in time. That's how I got to know who she was, but I knew her first as the Pink Power Ranger.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
Sorry, we went down a rabbit hole on purpose. I'm very obsessed with the Power Rangers, so continue.
But one of the things that my COVID project is I got recently into 3D printing.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which has been a whole lot of fun. That's actually part of the reason that I really got into that was I was building my Green Power Ranger costume. And I realized that the marketed dagger that the Green Power Ranger had retails for almost the same price as a 3D printer. So I just bought a 3D printer and printed myself one.
Why is that so expensive?
The legacy items for those things are ridiculous.
Wow.
They're
I could have drawn
nostalgic.
one for you. Probably not. Actually, I'm not a great drawer.
But the t-shirt I'm wearing right now is actually a gift. It says something along the lines of, "Sorry, I'm late. I was watching my 3D printer."
Oh, I love it. Well, and I love the authenticity and what brings you joy, because I think I like, first of all, the honesty of like, yeah, I hid my uniqueness and my weirdness, because we all do, y'all. Yeah. So just as we were talking about like pain and uncomfortable things that we go through, there's also opportunities for us to kind of embrace the things about us that may be uncomfortable, but also may be different than what everyone else or other people or other things tell us. And y'all know, every episode of Fearlessly Made You is very much about each person owning their authenticity, whatever that looks like. And I think, Chase, you bring that so beautifully to the table of just who you are, but also in what drives you, what brings you comfort and peace in your many, many activities and talents, because I may or may not show up in a pink Power Ranger costume alongside you.
Do it. I'm trying to get together a full Power Ranger group.
I love it. The next episode of Fearlessly Made You is going to be the Power Rangers. But no, honestly, Chase, I so appreciate this conversation. I think there is such and honesty, just vulnerability, but also realness that I love bringing to Fearlessly Made You, that you just highlighted so beautifully. So thank you so much for honoring who you are and bringing that to the table for our Fearlessly Made You crew. And as y'all know, you guys are probably used to this as well. But one of the things I do love about authenticity is the authenticity in the people that I get to bring onto the show, but also the people I get to partner with. So as y'all know, I have a fun partnership with Dillard's, who is the wardrobe partnership. I don't know, Dillard's, maybe we should make a pink Power Ranger costume as well. Just a thought, something to consider so that I can join my friend Chase here next to his green Power Ranger costume. Just a thought. But thank you again, Chase. You are now part of the Fearlessly Made You crew. Yes, we're so excited and appreciate you again for sharing your honesty, sharing your story. And as always, Fearlessly Made You crew, stay tuned for the next episode of Fearlessly Made You.